Way too early to panic, but there is a concern in Leafland right now. Having lost 5 of their last 6 games, Craig Berube basically says he's got to hold his players more accountable for the way they're playing right now. And Dregs, that seems to be something that's shared by the players as well.
And it's top to bottom. It's not one guy. It's not one line. It's not a defense pairing. It's across the board. And, the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs is going to demand more compete and a higher level of urgency. Now, we've heard from the captain, Austin Matthews, talking about how this group lacks urgency. Well, it's a bad time of year for that, because you can't really work through your growing pains with the playoffs looming. So there shouldn't be a sense of panic given the level of talent that the Toronto Maple Leafs have, the improvements that were recently brought in by Brad Treliving, but flat out they've got to play with a heightened sense of urgency, more passion, and far more commitment.
Leaf fans got to be wondering, though, is this something that's fixable come playoff time? Because the trade deadline's behind us. There's no new bodies coming in here unless you're bringing guys up from the minors. So what do they do? How do they fix it? Or is this team headed for yet another disappointing playoff run?
Well, it starts with accountability, and that will be distributed by Craig Berube moving forward here. It's going to be interesting to see how he addresses the lineup, but also makes the in-game adjustments, right? Against the Ottawa Senators the other day, we saw a different lineup start against the Sens than what we're expecting against the Calgary Flames tonight. Now, the game prior, you go power versus power against the Florida Panthers. I don't think that the coaching staff loved the idea of Marner and Matthews being split up against the Ottawa Senators. So the expectation I would have against the Calgary Flames tonight is that you see Matthew Nyes with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. But again, it starts with the players. They've got to set the tone of how they know they need to play going into the playoffs, and they have 16 games or so to prove that here in the end of the regular season.
We're here in Palm Beach, Florida for the general managers meetings, and just coming into the meetings, Hockey Canada had some meetings of their own. What was going on there, and how do we see the leadership at Hockey Canada potentially change over the short term?
Well, if we start with that, I think we will see news in the foreseeable future, the hiring of a vice president of hockey operations, essentially. They're well into that process. There is a hiring committee that's been assembled by Hockey Canada. And then beyond the hiring of the VP, you look at a general manager who will oversee all things hockey, right? So
would that be a full-time GM for all levels of international play?
That's the way it sounds. Yes, that's the way it sounds. And it's going to be interesting to see the type of candidates, the level of experience, and ultimately who they hire. But that's a ways down the road. So they are making progress in the hiring process of the VP. But in the meantime, you're right. The collective that is the Hockey Canada Management Group, most of those guys are NHL general managers, by the way, are here. Scott Salmon is also here. Ryan Getzlaff is here. Now, he works with George Peros in the NHL Department of Player Safety, but he's a big cog in the wheel of the management group for Hockey Canada as well. Yesterday they spent a fair bit of time talking about, what they liked about the Four Nations, especially the conclusion of the Four Nations face-off and the championship win over Team USA. Some of the things that they didn't love about the process, and now they're looking ahead to the men's worlds, the Olympics, and obviously 2028 in the World Cup.
All right, a lot going on at the GM meetings. We'll keep you up to date throughout the day.